Over the course of the next 30 minutes, one of the greatest managers of all time will talk us through the tactics and the strategies that enabled him to win a truly priceless game in his career. Once Jose's run us through that game, I'll be putting your questions directly to him. But first, he's a man that doesn't really need any kind of introduction. As a manager, in every country that he's managed in, he's won titles and he's won cups. He's well respected by his peers, having been voted 4 times the best club coach in the world. He's one of only a few coaches who can say they've won the UEFA Champions League twice with 2 different teams. But back in 2004, he was a young, promising manager of a Porto side that hadn't won the Champions League since 1987, up against a Manchester United team that was managed by Sir Alex Ferguson. Jose, your hair is a lot shorter than it was back then, but you're looking well.
Thank you.
And of course, for you to become the special one, you had to overcome a team that had the likes of Gary Neville, Roy Keane, Paul Scholes and Van Nistelrooy up front. So first question, how did you set up your team?
First of all, before we set up the team, we set up the mentality, the right mentality. In the previous season, the same team, we won the UEFA Cup, now the UEFA Europa League, and that gave us a certain level of confidence, a certain level of experience, know-how, and we went through the group phase before we got Manchester United. So by the mental point of view, we were ready for the challenge. So before we set up the team, because then the tactics and all these specific things, before that is very, very important to have the right approach, the right mentality, the right team mentality, and we had that. We didn't fear them. We were very happy to play them. We probably thought we don't have a huge percentage of chances of winning it, but we are so happy to measure ourselves against such an important team, and that was the base of everything. Then, because Manchester United finished the group phase first and we finished second behind Real Madrid, of course we had to play the first leg at home, and it was clear for us that we have to win this match. I told the players, don't fear it, don't be afraid of concede. Even if we concede, don't be too much obsessed with the home and away goals. We have to win this game, doesn't matter for how many. We knew that was very difficult to win it, and we knew that was even more difficult to win by 2 or 3 different. So our target was to win the game, and that's the way we went. You were telling a few names, but if my memories are fine, this was Louis Saha and Ruud van Nistelrooy. Rudy was kind of guy to score 40 goals in a season, and Louis Saha, let's say 20 or 25. This young guy in here was Ryan Giggs, and these two were Paul Scholes and Roy Keane. So this was Manchester United. Cristiano was not even playing in this team. Nicky Butt was playing. The brothers Nevilles were playing. This left back in this game was Quentin Fortune, and he scored. And this was that team. We had a way to play in Portuguese competitions, and we had a way to play in Champions League, because we knew the power of these teams. So we were playing in this moment, made quite a school, and from that moment lots of teams started playing that way. We were playing with a diamond in midfield. We were playing this way. Why? Because I didn't want to play with 3 in the back. I want to play 2 in the back. And I need this player, Costinha, to be the player responsible for every movement that a striker could make into these areas. So don't attract a centre-back. The centre-backs will be always zonal and in position. And every time one of these 2 strikers was moving, was this player in front that was responsible to get him. Never to jump out of position to press, always staying in this position in front. We're playing the back 4, very zonal, and then this allows us to play always with 2 strikers. I wanted to play with 2 strikers, not with 3, with 2, and I want to give this player, which was an incredible talented player, Deco, he went later to Barcelona, and I want to give him the freedom to be in here. And the objective was really to be in control of these 2 strikers. The fact that their wingers were phenomenal wingers. Let's imagine this Ryan Giggs. I always giving my lateral center midfielders the responsibility of trying to create a 2 against 1 superiority in the side of the ball. The 2 strikers were guys with a fantastic team spirit, not just to be in these positions, but also to make runs in depth through the channels. The team was a very strong team tactically, with a very good know-how. These 2 players were very strong physically. They were capable of making all these double movements in terms of the defensive work, but they had leg stamina, even desire to arrive in the box and to score goals. And this I always felt in this period of Champions League, that was quite a new system, very difficult for opponents to cope with it, very difficult for them to get and to control this player, especially when the strikers open a little bit more. Very difficult for the strikers to drop and to find space because of this cover. We had it very automatic in our brains, and we go to this game clearly with one objective, which was nothing to lose. Let's have a go, and let's try to win it.
And when Fortune does grab that goal, do your tactics change, or you just tell the guys?
No. Of course, was frustrating, because we knew that we are going to have difficulties in the game, and you don't expect to concede a goal in a rebound from a direct free kick. Frustrating, because you can expect against this Manchester United, we are going to concede a goal. Let's concede a goal, but a goal, an unstoppable one, not a direct free kick where the goalkeeper makes a save, where the defenders didn't react as fast as Fortune did. So it was quite frustrating. But we had it in our mind that it's very difficult to play against this Man United and not to concede. So concede, we keep going in the same direction. We equalize in the first half, and of course the result was not good, but the feeling at half time was they are not better than us, or at least in this game globally they are not better than us. So it was a positive feeling. The result was not good, but the feeling was very positive, and that was what made me later in the game to take more risks, not changing the positional play, but changing the characteristics of the players. And I brought later to the game a Lithuanian striker, Jankauskas. I replaced a Brazilian one, Carlos Alberto, that was more a technical player, and I bring that extra physical striker to try to fix this defender, and to give more freedom to these 2 players to try to starting exploring more these areas.
Did you have any specific plans for any of the Man United players, or did you just stick to your own tactics?
No, we had specific plans, but not on an individual base, more on a situation of trying to control their strength. And again, Ryan Giggs, my right back, was a great player. I brought him to Chelsea the next season, Paul Ferreira, which was very good on individual duels, but we had always discovered on the 2 against 1. In here, as I was saying before, was hypothetically Louis Saha and Ruud Nistelrooy, 2 centre-backs, but this extra man was controlling everything in between the lines. We knew that Paul Scholes was a guy that wanted to arrive all the time, and my centre-backs, they know that he's not going to follow him all the way, so if he projects into the box, we must get. We knew basically everything that we want to do. We didn't fix too much on the man, we fixed much more on the dynamic. We were a very zonal team, we were not a man-marking team, and we were always very compact. The team was always very solid, and they didn't had big chances to score. And then when we made that change, minute, I don't know, 60, 65, so 25, 30 minutes to play, I think they felt a 1-1 is a good result for us. And they, in spite of they brought young Cristiano to try to unbalance the game to the right side, I think they felt 1-1 is a good result. At home, they start dropping lines. We were more in control. We were attacking to a goal that was our favorite goal to attack. Normally teams, they have it, and in Porto we had it, a favorite goal where all the home young fan base is and push a lot. So in the last 20 minutes it was really enjoyable to see a young Porto coming from Europa League to have a go against Manchester United and putting them under pressure to try to win the game, which we did in the end.
And was there any specific change you had to make to get that second goal, and how did that change your tactics? Or did you?
No, we didn't change the tactics. We in terms of the position, because one thing is the position and another thing is the dynamic. As what we did was to change one striker by another one, but to change a Brazilian striker with all the qualities Brazilians have, technique, drop to get the ball, dribbling, to get one big, strong centre-back that was fixing, I think was Oshie, if I'm not wrong, was Oshie, to try to fix him, and then to give more freedom to these 2 players to find more spaces. Before we had just the two movement strikers, and they were more or less in control. When we start fixing one, they gave us more spaces, and we start attacking with more fluidity. And even on the left side and on the right side, our fullbacks, they start having more confidence because they were dropping. They start dropping, and in this moment when they start dropping, our line was up, and we start playing in their half, and then is from across from this kind of position that we scored the second goal.
And you spoke about how you felt like Manchester United were happy to accept the draw. What result did you want? Because now you're 2-1 up. Did you want to add on to those goals or secure that?
You know, when you have the 2-1, you are happy with a victory that allows you to go away and don't need to win it, which was, of course, good. But I had a feeling, I had a similar feeling that I had when we won with Inter against Barcelona, a semi-final. I had that feeling of probably by the mental point of view we are going to be unstoppable. Probably the last 10-15 minutes are going to give us another goal and go to a different result. I gave freshness to the team. I changed 2 of these midfield players to give a little bit more of intensity to the team, trying that, but at the same time keeping a structure. You are playing against these players, Giggs, Ronaldo, Scholes, Keane, Nistelrooy. You know that they are going to have a go-to. In spite of, I always felt, even after the game, I felt that they were quite happy and confident that the second leg would be their leg. But we were trying, and the team was a very confident team.
And of course, on 3 minutes to go, Roy Keane gets sent off. So what goes through your mind and what are you shouting at your players from the touchline?
No, he made his mistake, and he paid for the mistake. And for us, of course, was a very important thing because Roy was such an important player for them, and he was the kind of player that playing at home the second leg, full Old Trafford, he is the kind of guy that can push teammates, can push his team, can push even the fans to have an aggressive and supportive attitude. So for us was really good. I think in the second leg to replace him, I don't know. I think was Jamba, and with all the difference that you can imagine. Roy was of course a very important player. In the end of the game, they start complaining. Even Sir Alex was not happy with the feeling of my goalkeeper Victor Bahia was cheating, but clearly not. Clearly, Roy made his mistake and paid for it.
Of course, you go on to win that second leg and you win the Champions League. So how important in terms of a priceless moment in your career was winning your first Champions League?
You know, it's hard to describe. Was so much together in one day. What it meant. What it meant is, first of all, Portugal didn't won once since '87. I think was '87, and now almost 20 years later, 17 years later, Portugal didn't win it again. Not even a final, not even a semi-final, I think. So you can imagine what it meant, because yes, I was a young coach, but yes, I was Portuguese, and yes, I was coaching a Portuguese club, and yes, in these 11 players, 9 were Portuguese, which meant a lot, meant really a lot. The final was in the end of May. In June, started in Portugal the Euro 2004. So you can imagine the impact in the country, in win the Champions League with the Portuguese team full of Portuguese players. Basically the same players going to the Euros a few weeks later, playing in Portugal the Euros. Was an incredible moment for the Portuguese football, and in my case, the impact of it was that 2 days later I was leaving the country and coming to the Premier League.
And of course, since then, you've managed so many Champions League games with many different teams. In terms of tactics-wise, how has you grown as a person in terms of the tactics you employ since that young Mourinho?
You know, it's not easy to win the Champions League, that's for sure. To win it a second time, great. Do I have a bad feeling of not winning it yet for a third time? Of course I have. I think with Pep, the record of semi-finals. I think 8 or 9 semi-finals. I went through everything. I lost the semi-final with a goal that the ball didn't cross the line. I lost semi-finals on penalties. I lost semi-final on penalties where 3 of the best penalty takers in the world, they miss penalties. Imagine a semi-final where Ronaldo, Kaká and Sergio Ramos, they all miss a penalty. I went through everything. I went through matches where I won in the last second. Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain, we won in the last second. I went through matches where we were knocked out also in a very negative and sad way. For example, Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, we lost in Dortmund 3-0. We play at home, we are winning 2-0, and the goalkeeper of Borussia Dortmund was the man of the match because we should win 3, 4 or 5. I went through everything, but there is one thing that never changed, which is you ask every coach, you ask every player in the world. I'm not even saying in Europe. You ask him in the world, what's your dream in terms of club football? and the dream is to win the Champions League.
Well, Jose, it's been truly a masterclass, and we do have some questions from your fans now. Another Jose from Portugal. What did your teams at Porto and Inter Milan have that was so special to make them UEFA Champions League winners?
Well, the first thing I don't know by words, but I can say with my hands, big, really big, great mentality, great guys. The concept of the team is the most important thing. Lots of tactical work since the beginning of the season. I remember pre-season with Porto in France. I remember pre-season with Inter in the US. Great tactical work from the beginning, and what we had was a certain way of playing knockout matches. For example, in Porto, as I was telling you, in the league, in the Portuguese league, we were playing normally with a 4-3-3. We were doing this diamond on a 4-4-2 in the Champions League. With Inter was the opposite. We were playing 4-4-2 in domestic competitions, and then we were adapting in a certain way to go to Champions League and to play with the 4-3-1, which at that time I thought was the best way to cope with the qualities of some clubs. So, for example, Barcelona was a team that, in my Inter time, they were projecting incredible the two fullbacks. Dani Alves on the right side was not a right back, was a right winger, and we adapt to play 4-2-3-1 to have a better control of this kind of tactical details. But I would say the thing that most had impact in this team was mentality, team spirit, great togetherness, the capacity to survive in difficult moments, because to win a Champions League you are going always to have a difficult moment on the certain matches you have to play, and basically that multifunctionality of players adapting to different styles of play, because in the end, if you see, maybe not as much now, because now there are lots of teams from the same country, but before was less, and then you have to play against a Spanish, you have to play against an English, you have to play against a German, you have to play against an Italian, and lots of different styles of play, lots of different philosophies that you get, and you need to be able to go and to adapt or not to adapt, and to make your philosophy, your style of play to be predominant.
We have a very quick-fire question now from Vinesh in India. Would you consider managing the Portugal national team in the future?
I would, yeah. Portuguese national team, or even another country, because this international football is something that I never did, and during the process of qualification matches for 2 years before a World Cup, before a Euros, I always feel it I wouldn't enjoy, because it looks for me a little bit boring, one match per month. Some of the countries, they don't have a competitive level. But then when you go as a fan, or when somebody invites you to go, and you go to a World Cup final phase, or you go to a Euro final, then you go there and you feel it, what it means for people, the social side of it, what it means for the countries. And one day is something that I would try, and I would try to enjoy my football in a different way, with a different experience that I never experienced before.
And this is from Bodhi in Australia. You spoke about it before. How do you get your players ready mentally for a Champions League game?
I think there are no magic portions. I think it's about they have to feel confident, and to feel confident you need a lot of work before that. In our Porto very specific case, I believe that the Europa League success was very important. Players without experience, only 2 of them played Champions League before. To grow up with that Europa League campaign was very important. But normally you need big personalities. You need a team that is capable to cope with difficult moments. I used to call it the competition of the details. One detail makes a difference. The ball that hits the post, the red card that should be a yellow card, the mistake that the player made in front of the goal, the ball that hit the post and goes in or goes out, is a competition of details. You need to be, as a team, very strong mentally, and that strength, in my case, normally comes from what you are doing in the domestic leagues. That Porto team won everything. That Inter team won everything. My Real Madrid in the semi-final was champion in the same season. My Chelsea's in the semi-finals. They won titles in the season too. I think the self-esteem and the self-confidence that you build during the season in the domestic competition is normally key for when you go to the big decisions of semi-finals and finals, and the team to be ready.
Great answer. Mikkel in Denmark wants to know, how would you recommend preparing young players for the mental demands of football?
Wow, that's hard, and that's complex. I think more than demand, something belongs to DNA, belongs to the person, belongs to the young guy. The levels of confidence and the mental strength, normally they are together with what makes you perform at the highest level. Prepare. There are many strategies to do it, but I always believe that the best way for a young player to get there is to love the game. And if you love the game, you go step by step, you absorb knowledge from everywhere, and eventually you make it.
And we have a question from Osha in Israel. Do you think there is a dominant tactical trend in modern day football?
I wouldn't say a dominant trend. I would say that the trend now is that teams are able to play in many different ways. And before in football, probably when the team was changing from match to match, and in this moment teams are able to change during matches. Is also a normal thing now with the evolution of the match analyze and the influence that has in training. Is very normal that the team builds, has the ball in a certain system, but when loses the ball and goes into defensive organization, defends with a different positional play. I think this is basically the trending is about tactical culture, is about knowing how to play in different ways, and teams to try to be dominant during the game, try to create different problems to oppositions and change during the game. I think it's more about this changing during matches than properly to have a trending. Of course, now many teams are playing with 3 in the back or 5 with the back, the way you want to describe it, probably more than ever. But the reality is that for me, the real trend is the ability for the teams to change during matches.
And of course, when you were a young manager, you were up against Sir Alex Ferguson, who was very established in the game. How intimidating or how much of a challenge was that for you in terms of how you prepared?
I think it's not about intimidating. I think it's about respect. You feel it, but I always felt I didn't feel different from the first time I played against him to the last time I played against him. I always felt the same through, 20 times we play against each other. I always felt respect. I always felt a privilege. Probably some of the young guys now, when they play me, they feel the same, But I always felt that in that first match, I felt in that match what I felt all throughout my career, is not coach against coach, is team against team. And I never felt I'm playing against Sir Alex, or I'm playing against Louis van Gaal, or I'm playing against Jurgen Klopp. I always felt it's team against team, And when you feel that your team is really strong, when your team is very well prepared, of course you feel much more confident. And during my career, I had teams where I felt ultra confident, and I had teams where I was not as confident as that.
We've got a question here from Munir from Egypt and Leonardo from Portugal. What advice would you give to an aspiring manager?
Look, when I speak about myself, I made mistakes, but I wouldn't like not to make them. I wouldn't like anybody to tell me during my career, don't do this, don't do that. Everything that I did, even the mistakes that I made, were part of me, of my identity, of me growing up, learning with the experiences. So I would say, go with your identity. Of course, we have always to learn with other people that has more experience than us, but keep identity. And in a funny way, I would say, don't listen to pundits because they think they know everything, but they don't.
How hard is it as a manager to listen to those pundits when you're actually managing a team?
I don't. I watch football without volume.
Well, this is the last question, of course. The UEFA Champions League final is coming up, so this was going to come up. From Quinn in the UK, who do you think will win the Champions League final this year?
A final is always 50-50. I used to say that always. I was saying that 3 or 4 days before the cup final, Tottenham against Manchester City. And that's what I say before every final. Doesn't matter, cup final, League Cup, Champions League, is 50-50. When we go to the specificity of the Champions League, even more. Because if you arrive there for some reason. There is not one team that reached Champions League final without top quality. Who is there? Now it's Chelsea and Man City, but you go through the history, the teams that get in there are teams with potential to win it. Chelsea beat City recently in the Premier League. What that means? Nothing. Nothing. Man City, of course, is the champion. Are they better than Chelsea? I would say yes. But what that means, I would say nothing. I just think that will be a game with two teams that think football in a complete different way. The way they think, the way they play is completely different. And I wouldn't bet £1. I wouldn't, because I really think that is a 50-50 one.
Jose, thank you for sharing that priceless moment and your priceless tactics.
Thank you so much.
That truly was a priceless masterclass. So thank you for joining us, and thank you, MasterCard, for putting on this priceless experience.